When there's no more room in hell, the dead will listen to Bloodfest, the podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Bloodfest, the podcast. I'm your host, Nate. Y'all know me, know what I do for a living. I'm joined tonight, as always, by my good friend, Casey. Casey, how the hell are you doing?
Doing great. I'm excited to speak to Mel Brooks tonight. Oh, excuse me, Lloyd Kaufman.
And I'm joined, as normal, by Josh. Josh, you sexy bastard. How are you doing?
I'm doing better than Casey.
And as always, Joey, our director, refuses to be on camera because if you saw his face, you'd lose your mind. Joey, how's it doing over there in the booth?
Doing a lot better than Casey.
So, our special guest tonight is the man, the myth, the legend, everybody's uncle, Lloyd Kaufman. Hello, Mr. Kaufman. How are you doing tonight?
Good evening. Very nice to I assume, where are you guys? Are you in evening where you are?
Yeah, Kansas and Missouri. Some of us are in Kansas, some in Missouri. So, yeah, we're smack in the middle of this big country. Yeah.
Who knows? You see how real I am? You don't see Oliver Stone, who I discovered. He didn't blow his nose.
You're a real person.
So that
we only talk to real people. So.
Yeah.
See, that's how real I am in underground.
So that you mentioned discovering Oliver Stone. I was actually just thinking about this the other day. Between you and Roger Corman, it seems like everybody who's big in Hollywood worked with one of the two of you at some point. Do you ever feel like you're the father or one of the fathers of modern Hollywood?
No. Roger Corman is. He's the Tiffany standard. I'm more like the dirty uncle. What you, Trey Parker, James Gunn, and a few others. But Roger birthed everybody, and we're very good friends. He's a great guy, and his directing was terrific.
Oh yeah. He's an absolute legend, and seems like a wonderful person.
He is. He and his wife are. In fact, they're executive producing. My daughter is has just finishing up a documentary about Troma and.
Oh, nice. What's it going to be called?
We're not sure yet.
Okay.
It's a sequel to our documentary we did in maybe 11, 12 years ago, All the Love You Can, about the Cannes, how we do things at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
This one was years later to see if we would be treated any better or worse by Cannes. And I think we may call it Cannes-celled. Ain't never going back.
That's good.
Police us out.
So we definitely want to ask some questions about many of your amazing movies, but before we do that, I want to ask, what's next for Troma? What's the next big thing coming up? What are you releasing?
Well, quite a bit. Oh, thing we just have. I just QC'd the Blu-ray for a movie I produced by the writer of #Shakespeare Shitstorm, slashing the final beginning.
Nice, nice.
Very good. Brandon Bassam wrote #Shakespeare Shitstorm along with Shakespeare and me, and Gabe Friedman, of course. And that's looking really good. We've got the remake of The Toxic Avenger, $1 billion reimagining, rather. That's terrific. I've seen it a few times. It's Macon Blair's own Toxic Avenger.
So you're excited? You're pleased with what they're doing with it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's his own. It's totally. It's not just a rehash. It's not like. It's not like your typical remake. This is a real. This is something that Toxie is proud of, and it's probably $100 million movie. So.
Wow, that's awesome. Does it ever?
Meaning that it doesn't have all the imperfections that all the Troma Toxie movies have.
Oh, there are no imperfections. There are no imperfections. They're beauty marks.
Well, you're very kind, but you can sort of see behind the curtain, and we're making $30 million movies for $500,000.
Yeah, well, I mean that's part of the charm, though. Honestly, for me,
you'll see a lot of charm, and Macon Blair's Toxic Avenger is totally his own.
Oh,
totally.
outstanding.
That's about. I gave a few notes, and hopefully ignore them. And you're going to see a really good movie. It's terrific.
Does it ever blow your mind that the Toxic Avenger became such a cultural touchstone? That, I mean, you've got a Saturday morning kids show, comic books, toys. I think there was a breakfast cereal at one point, and now a big budget Hollywood movie. When you were making it, could you have imagined that happening?
Every time I make a movie, I think it's a visionary movie of the future. It just takes about 30 years for the public and the critics and the gatekeepers to catch on. You know, I thought Toxic Avenger was a big deal from the beginning, and if anybody knows more, I mean, the New York Times reviewed it as their main movie when it opened, so it has to mean something.
It's amazing. It's amazing to me how far that movie has traveled. You can mention it too. So we live in the world of horror and exploitation movies. It's what we love. It's what we all talk about here. And so of course we know it most of the time when we're talking to a normie and we mention some movie from Bruno Mattei or Lucio Fulci or something, and they look at you with empty eyes, but you say Toxic Avenger and everybody knows what you're talking about.
Well, that's great. And you guys have a very good sense of humor in addition to your love of horror. So I think that helps with appreciating the Troma movies, because they're not really horror movies.
Yeah.
They're more like a cartoony satires of political events of the time. Hashtag Shitstorm was kind of, aside from it being The Tempest, my favorite Shakespearean movie, it's a take a bit on what's happening in the world of woke and in the world of fascism and in the world of big pharma. Takes on a fair number of serious subjects so that young people might be able to have something to think about while they watch people fucking and chopping their heads off.
Perfect.
Finally, Lucy laughs.
Do you?
Lucy is alone.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, do you prefer at this point directing, or do you prefer producing and shepherding the director through? Which role do you think you take more joy in?
Good question, Nate. I think up until now I've enjoyed the whole process of writing, directing, producing, being in charge of every detail of the movie, because I have to be. But I'm getting on. And after hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, I can send you a link. Just email Garrett or me.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Link, of course.
Yeah.
But that was it's a huge movie made for about $450,000, which is the exact same budget, same dollar as 1984 Toxic Avenger.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, that's like making it for 20% of the Avenger. Yeah. So it was a big strain, and by the time we finished shooting, part of which was filming in Albania for 8 days, which was lovely. I mean, it's just there and 6 weeks in New York. Yeah, it's a lot of strain, and it's very dangerous, and you'll see. Well, like all our movies, they're big budget movies made for very little money. But I actually made a huge tribute to Hitchcock at the end of the principal photography. I actually got vertigo, so I don't know if I have
That's pretty good. I like
the room was spinning when I was cold sober. I never had that before.
Oh, well, that's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah. I went away after 3 days, but there still wasn't much fun. So I don't know, unless I'm developing a couple of scripts, one for myself. If it turns out to be not too bad, I might take a whack at directing it. I also have to, our movies aren't really making any money, so I have to scrape up some patrons of the art and take my wife's checkbook when she's not looking.
That's how I get things. So I was going to ask, so speaking about topical stuff, so I think everyone knows about what happened on the film Rust with Alec Baldwin. And it got me to thinking about, I had read an article a number of years back saying that Troma had the safest sets in the movie industry. Do you think that's true, and is it still true?
Well, I don't know if it's the safest, but we're knocking on wood. We have 3 rules of production, and we plaster them everywhere because most of the people who work on our movies are first timers or very young. I mean, the technical crew is usually fairly advanced and just want to be on something they can really experiment with and be on something meaningful. But everybody else, for the most part, are first timers. So, you know, rubber sole shoes and safety to humans. That's rule number 1. Safety to people's property. You're in somebody's house, have total respect for it. Don't do anything that might possibly damage the place or get us kicked out. That's the other reason. And then in much smaller writing, make a good movie.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the art department has to make posters, put them all over the place on the trucks, in the bathroom, on the catering table, everywhere, so that it's like Chairman Mao. You brainwash the kids to be safe. And knocking on wood, we've not had any kind of accident.
Outstanding. That's wonderful. That's wonderful, and I love that. I love that attitude. Honestly, that you're putting the safety of your people above everything.
It's only a movie. Good
Yeah.
God, it's not worth it. Why would anybody? You know, it's just not worth it. And I'll tell you something else. Whenever we have a gun on set, and if you see Troma's War, we had a whole truck full of guns, but we had a top quality armorer who gave us speeches every morning, every gun that was used, and there were at times maybe 25 guns all being used at the same time. He looked through everything. The AD looked through everything. I looked through every gun. The person handling the gun looked through it to make sure there was nothing in it. Or blank or whatever you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And we all had lessons on how to fire blanks so we wouldn't kill Bruce Lee, you know, that kind of stuff. And you know, everybody looks down on Troma because we're so schlocky and chintzy and all that. But meanwhile, we didn't kill anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, Twilight Zone chopped off an actor and 2.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah. That was.
We've not done anything.
Yeah.
And we've got no injury.
I just watched Terror Firmer today for the first time. I don't know how I went over that one, but fantastic movie. I love it. But I saw that sign all over the movie.
Yeah, see, and at the end it has a payoff, right?
Yeah, it does.
Tribute to Spielberg.
Nice. So I've always wondered, what movie other than Toxic Avenger are you proudest of that you've directed?
I would say 100% hashtag Shakespeare's Shitstorm.
All right.
Goes where no movie has gone. It's my most personal film since Terra Firma. Yeah. That was my most personal. And this is purely, I'm not, you know, if you're familiar with The Tempest, it's about an old man that deals with losing power. It's got magic. For me, movies are magic. It's got a monster. It's got a fairy. It's got everything a Troma movie should have, and it's a perfect vehicle for this whole business that's going on at my alma mater, Yale University, where there's no sense of debate or free speech. Or it's totally they've increased the number of bureaucrats and diversity administrators and decreased the number of professors, from what I've read, and you know, it's just things are spinning out of control. And then every morning, since I've been married for almost 50 years, and since I met my wife, she likes to watch the morning Today show or the crap on CBS every morning, and every other commercial is about drugs. So we've had 3 generations of children growing up in the last 50 years being brainwashed by you know, you got a hangnail, take a drug, you got this, take a drug, and it's over and over. Every channel, MSNBC, Fox, whether they're fascist, whether they're socialist, whether they're middle of the road, they're all sucking up to
Big Pharma.
The concept of drugs. There's nothing wrong with Big Pharma if they can cure cancer and stuff like that, and they need a lot of money to be innovative. But this whole thing of just constant getting children. They should, if they outlaw cigarettes on TV for children, they ought to be outlawing, they're worried about menthol. They make big stink about menthol. Outlaw these drug commercials while children are eating their Cheerios in the morning, watching these vapid people on the morning chat shows. Holy cow. God, your feces, you just shove it in your face.
I see those commercials and you see all these happy people and they're shaking their hands and they're just, oh, it's so great. And then at the end it says may cause bleeding from the eyes and rectal explosions. And so I'm like, well, what the hell is worth that? And I Google it and it's like, it's for if your toes ache. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. And they dance around. I love when they're dancing.
Yeah.
I didn't do any more of the reads because I'll say something in politics, but it's just awful. I mean, forget it. But anyway, hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm says an awful lot. And the New York Times, I have to be fair, gave it a pretty good review.
Oh, yeah.
Very hard to get theaters now. Very hard.
Yeah.
I don't think we've got any theaters in Missouri. I'm going out to Oklahoma City pretty soon.
Oh, okay. So that's cool. That's a bit of a drive for me. I've been down there probably once in the last 5 years, but it's close enough to go for a Troma movie. So,
are you anywhere near Kansas City? Because
I'm between. I'm actually about. It takes me about 2 hours to get to KC. I go there every few weeks.
Now, Josh lives in Kansas.
Yes, Josh actually lives in Kansas City.
Okay, Josh, it's up to you.
You're gonna swing by and pick us all up.
Yeah, I can rally you guys.
Yeah.
But if you can get a booking, I'll come out there and we'll show a couple of Troma. Have a Troma weekend. I just did 6 or 7 stops in Texas, and pretty much everything was full. Alamo Draft House, which you have in Kansas City. I don't know about, and Oklahoma City has a couple of good. Well, we are booking that. But we haven't had anything in Missouri for quite a while.
I know Springfield has an Alamo.
Yeah, Springfield, Missouri has an Alamo. Yeah.
Yeah, the Kansas City one closed during COVID.
Yeah.
Which sucks because that was like my favorite place. But definitely Springfield, and that's not that far away. It's closer to you guys, isn't it?
Springfield's
it is. It's not too bad.
I can't remember how long it takes to get there.
It's like a couple hours, maybe.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
Well, if you could put together a little tour, you guys could do the Q&As and kind of produce it, publicize Bloodfest, and
I'll reach out to the Draft House in Springfield
because the Texas one is all fan produced.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, Denton. I did a master class at the University of Texas, and I did I did it for free, but they had a big club with a drag queen show that were all Troma movies. Toxic Avenger, Castle Terra Firma, was amazing. Vegas in Space, and the place was packed. And I did it for free, and they all got, I guess the drag queens split with the club owners.
Yeah.
But it was very good cause because the night we did that was when the drugstore banned abortion.
Oh yeah. Jesus.
What's the name? It begins with W.
Walgreens. Yeah.
And then we put out the Troma. We made some graphics with me and with the Toxie drag queen and me. She made it kind of she had obviously huge love pillows but she had kind of Toxie face and a mop, and so we did a boycott Walgreens.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
I put them up on my Instagram. It's a good cause, and on Twitter too. People should retweet it.
Yeah. Awesome. So you seem to really stay involved in politics. So do you think, and you've been around a couple of years longer than I have, so do you think right now is the scariest time of the last 50 years, or does it seem not as bad as it seems to me?
I don't know. I'm not that great a historian, but we've always had, it seemed, certainly Civil War wasn't such a hot time about divided. When the 60s, the Vietnam War didn't exactly unify our country.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I think this is something we do, and hopefully we'll come together after this. Hopefully, the biggest problem we have, in my humble opinion, is that our leaders have let education fall by the side. So nobody really has the ability to debate. We don't teach civics anymore. We're removing books that might be slightly interesting to people, like Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, rather, and this kind of and then the other side, you've got at Yale, where they won't let anybody speak, period, unless they're totally whatever.
Did you?
They want to dictate to Yale students what kind of Halloween costumes to wear. Don't wear a Mexican outfit. Oh, be Elmo. Where's Elmo? That's accepted.
Did you see? This was just in New York. I think it was today. There was a drag queen story hour, and the Proud Boys showed up and got in a fight, and a bunch of Proud Boys got their butts kicked by drag queens.
Great. That's
terrific. So I thought that's awesome. Yeah.
Great. Terrific. Well, again, see, the whole idea of fighting is ugly, right?
Yeah.
But here I am laughing at it.
Yeah.
But it's ugly that we have this constant fighting, right? Fighting. Yeah. Everything is about a fight. Fight for this. Fight for that. Yeah. The fight for against drugs. The fight for this. The fight for that. It's ugly. And then, of course, from the time we're babies with guns and army and this and that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You've got Israelis, right? Screaming about killing Palestinians, just going crazy. Flash mobs killing. And then you've got the other side, same thing. And then, of course, we use the Israeli nuts, crazy people in Israel, which is not the majority of the people. We use that as a dog whistle for anti-Semitism.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So everybody around the world hates Jews to begin with. Now more of them hate Jews.
Yeah.
It's a great excuse to hate the Jews. So I'm already hate myself, so I'm a self-hater. I'm a bold.
And honestly, yeah, the rise of anti-Semitism again is unbelievable to me. It's like we just did this, guys. I mean, we just it was before I was born, but it wasn't that long ago when we defeated Hitler. We're seriously just going to do the same damn thing again?
Well, I don't know, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we don't educate. Our educational system, teachers are so underpaid.
Yeah.
Now with all the school shootings and everything, with the guns allowed, and same with nurses. You've got Tom Cruise getting how much for a movie? $100 million.
Yeah.
And then a nurse has trouble eating and raising a family. Teachers too. So naturally we're going to be fine. We're a sandcastle. It's a sandcastle kind of melting from within, and that's why I try to bring out some points like Poultry Guy Snyder the Chicken did. That that fast food is evil. It does nothing for anybody except the big shots, the owners. It's ugly architecture. It destroys the animals and tortures them. The people become obese. The workers can't afford to live. Single mothers having to take 2 jobs and leave their kids at home as latchkey kids. I mean, it feeds on itself.
Boy, we're getting depressing here on this.
Yeah. That's what we do.
We do this sometimes. We get off on current events. And so I wanted to ask, I think the class of Nukem High is just a beautiful, hilarious, exciting, political. But didn't one of the sequels get featured by the Museum of Modern Art?
I don't remember, but I can tell you that Romeo and Juliet was presented by the Museum of Modern Art. It took them 25 years, but they put it in their Shakespeare month.
Nice.
And also they premiered. Oh no, you're right. Return to Nukem High, aka Volume 2, the 5th one of the class of Nukem High series. The Museum of Modern Art premiered it. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that is amazing. Does that feel like is that on the level of an Oscar nomination for a filmmaker being featured by the Museum of Modern Art, or is it better?
I think it's better.
Okay.
I think the cachet of people who actually know something about movie making that isn't governed by money, or it isn't governed totally. I certainly am not a contributor. I mean, I'm a member of the museum, but I don't think my wife contributes a bit. But you know, they're not going to name a wing after the toxic.
You know what? There should be a Toxic Avenger wing on the Museum of Modern Art. I've been there, and that's what it needs. That's what it's missing.
I think the mop. There might be a mop or two they can put toxic on their janitor buckets. That's about it. But no, that's a big deal. Even the Moving Image premiered hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, and but you know, we can't live on that. But it's great. Great, as you say, it makes it worthwhile, and I think it's much more meaningful, really, than an Oscar, which you can buy. You know, you can buy an Oscar, but I couldn't buy your love, your interest. You know, Bloodfest's interest in Troma and Michael Hers and Lloyd Kaufman is something you can't buy.
I discovered your movies when I was young, and I was just immediately enamored. I'm like, this stuff is absolutely bonkers, and that's what I need in my life.
Yeah, it's got you can, if you don't know you're watching a Troma film, you can always tell it's a Troma film if nobody told you.
Yeah.
It's just got that certain humor. It's just, it grips me as well. I love all of the Class of Nukem High movies.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping that we get a new box set of those in the future, maybe.
Well, we're very poor. So next up is going to be, the next Blu-ray is Slashing the Final Beginning.
Okay.
Which I just approved. The Divide and Conquer by Mercedes the Muse has just come out. And in... for Christmas, we'll have hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm Blu-ray, I hope.
Awesome.
And then August 29th, we're going to have I believe it's August 29th, the 4K complete TA on 4K. So that should be very, very exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm super excited. Yeah, that's a day one purchase. It doesn't. I won't even look at the price. Honestly, I'll just click buy.
We keep it as low as we can. Most of our fans are not terribly wealthy. By the way, Troma Now is a good thing. It's a platform with about 1,000 movies, 50 years of our movies and our acquisitions, and we're constantly making new movies. And it's a great deal. A month is for free, and then only $4.95. And it's, as you just said, the Troma movies are even the ones that by new young directors. Who are not James Gunn or Eli Roth or Trey Parker and Matt Stone. In addition to those in our own, we've got tons of wonderful new directors and directors who have been great, who nobody knows about from the past, Bloodsucking Freaks. It's 50 years of Troma movies, and you get it all for very little. So, and you're supporting all these filmmakers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be on online.
So we'll get the links. We'll get the links to everything, including especially Troma Now. Those will go in the show notes and on our websites, because there's just no way we don't want to push those. Those are awesome. But I wanted to. Oh,
thank you.
I wanted to take a second. You mentioned Bloodsucking Freaks. When I was in junior high, Bloodsucking Freaks was like a dividing line among the boys I went to school with. You were cool if you had managed to see Bloodsucking Freaks, and you were not cool if you hadn't managed to see it. And it wasn't easy to do because your parents weren't going to rent it for you. So,
well, it's a nasty film.
It is. It
doesn't go away. And Lemmy from Motorhead, I think one of the main reasons he loved Troma was because of Bloodsucking Freaks, and also Chris Jericho, the wrestler, and even wrote a song. A Bloodsucking Freak song, which he performed on Joe Bob Briggs's Last Drive-In show, which, by the way, is produced by all Troma alumni.
Oh, I didn't know that. We're all big fans of Joe Bob's show on Shudder. Yeah. So
John Brennan, Justin Martell, Matt Mangiarides, Yuki, the Japanese dude, was production designer on hashtag Shakespeare. Pretty much the whole gang is Troma, and I think that's the only show on Shudder that does any it's doesn't suck.
Yeah, I agree. That's Joe Bob's Last Drive-In is the only reason I keep Shudder. I signed up for Elvira's 40th, I think it was her 40th anniversary special that she hosted. So I signed up for her and I stayed for Joe Bob.
So Joe Bob is the only show of theirs that I watch, but they get a lot of fun movies on there. So
Joe Bob is he's he knows movies. He's a film historian. He actually knows what he's talking about, which most of the New York Times I don't think do.
Yeah,
and most of certainly Variety and Hollywood Reporter, they basically sucking the cock of their advertisers and the big. They're a house organ of the giant conglomerates. Joe Bob, he says it like it is, and the following is enormous. It fills up. I go to a theater in Oregon. They invite me to show a movie and do a weekend. Maybe the theater is, I think, got 800 seats or something. And they charge $15 a seat, and maybe it'll be half full. Joe Bob fills the thing up at like $30 a seat.
Wow.
And he's got a huge following. And a lot of it is because of Justin Martell and John Brennan, who produced hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. And Matt Mangiarides, who also worked with them for many years.
So I read that you actually did not want to be a filmmaker when you were in school at Yale, and after you got out, you had different plans. Is that true? Would you actually accidentally go this way, or?
Well, I was when I went into Yale, I just knew I wasn't going to go into corporate America. I had a very left-wing grandmother who filled my head up with all sorts of correct opinions, such as the Vietnam War stunk and Castro kicked out a lot of disgusting dictator and his retinue out of Cuba. And anyway, I don't want to go into that, but I was very left-wing, and I thought, well, maybe I'll be a social worker or a teacher. My mother used to tell me, teachers could be just as happy as millionaires. And blah, blah, blah. Of course, in those days, a teacher was middle class. Now, I don't know how teachers live unless both parents are working. At any rate, I went to Yale freshman year. I was put in a room with a movie nut, the guy who ran the Yale Film Society, Robert Edelstein. And I started our beds were head to toe, a very small bedroom. And at night, I'd inhale his Jean-Luc Godard feet. And the aroma du Troma was born. I troll in the theater, the Film Society, Yale's Film Society Theater. And they would show movies like Edward G. Ulmer and Frank Borzage and John Ford, Howard Hawks, Samuel Fuller, Charlie Chaplin, Stan Brakhage, Leni Riefenstahl, Jean Renoir, Fritz Lang, the auteur filmmakers of history, up until the point of D.W. Griffith, up until again, I'm a man of the mid-'60s. So I fell in love with all those movies, Ernst Lubitsch. And one day I was in the theater, probably, Yale was all men in those days, so I probably was looking for a date. But the Ernst Lubitsch's To Be or Not to Be was on screen, and the craziness of that movie and the perfectness of that movie, the total control of that movie with Jack Benny, Carol Lombard, and Robert Stack, directed by Ernst Lubitsch. And I decided right then and there in the dark that I would give what I have to the film-going public. So if you want to blame Troma for somebody, go to the graves of Ernst Lubitsch, Carol Lombard, Jack Benny, and Robert Stack and urinate on them.
Well, okay. So had you been a social worker, you would have made a positive difference in the world. But as a filmmaker, you've touched millions, if not tens of millions of lives in a positive way. So I just think that's interesting.
Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so. I mean, Michael Hers and I try to be. I think the key is entertainment, and we happen to like comedy, and we happen to like mixing the genre. So you can't really classify Troma somewhere. It's probably the only studio other than Disney that has kind of a brand name identification. but we want to appeal to younger people because that's where the hope is. That's where people might possibly think about what's up on screen in addition to enjoying the entertainment. So be it. Whatever the entertainment is. In the case of Poultry Guy's Night of the Chicken Dead, there's singing and dancing and zombie chickens. And
I love that movie. I absolutely love that movie.
But it's got a serious point to it. You know, it's quite compelling. It's the annihilation of the Native Americans who are still getting fucked. They're still, they got nuclear power plants on the border of their reservations. Their cherished sacred lands are being mined, being used for mine. I mean, it never ends. Yeah. And then billions of chickens who are living in crates and stacked up on each other and shooting on top of each other. You know, there's so much bad stuff that goes along with the fast food. So it's an important film, but you know, it takes time for people to realize. And plus the singing. A lot of people don't like musicals. So the fact that we have singing and dancing along with the explosive diarrhea is not exactly a formula for.
See, for me, the explosive diarrhea makes the singing and dancing worthwhile. So.
Well, thank you. And you're not alone. But again, we're, I think, basically a cult movie studio. We wouldn't be here without you and our fans. There's no question about it. We've never had any money to advertise. And just like this tour I took in Texas, it was all done by fans. Hey!
Yeah. Yep, I actually own that.
Yeah.
I found a guy selling it, and I snagged it.
That's a foul movement. But the fans are our secret sauce. They plan, like if you guys set up a tour in Missouri, I can come and do 2 or 3 cities. And
the art's incredible.
Really long.
Hey, I will start reaching out and see what we can make happen. Actually.
Great.
Yeah. I already have ideas for where to reach out. Yeah, outstanding.
I go to California quite a bit, and so I could kind of stop off so the theater can put me up for a night or two and do a weekend.
Yeah.
I'll probably stop off on my way out west or on my way back.
Yeah, definitely. So you'd get to enjoy the lovely Kansas City International Airport.
I've heard it's actually pretty good now because they redid it, so it's all one terminal now. You don't have to go to different buildings.
Oh, really?
Like
okay. Yeah, it's been a year or so since I've been in there, so I don't know. But
they just opened it not too long ago.
It can't be worse than Los Angeles. That's really
well. Atlanta is a nightmare.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Just there. Yes, it's not fun. Yeah. It is not fun. It's unbelievably busy. It's incredible. And it goes on forever too. Whatever gate I land in, I have to go to the entire airport.
Yeah. Oh, Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's probably a great airport, but the only time I was ever there, my plane came in late, and I was almost going to miss my connecting flight, and I had to run the entire length of the airport carrying a bag, and I thought I was going to die.
Yes, we've all had that, indeed. I get stopped in airports frequently.
Yeah, I bet.
Because people think I'm Mel Brooks, like you.
That's why I mentioned that, because I was just reading an article about that.
I can't figure it out when it first happens. I'm not sure if it's Lloyd Kaufman they want to take with whom they want the picture, or it's Mel Brooks.
You should sign Mel Brooks' autographs.
Yeah.
And ask for money.
Or Mel Kaufman, and then they'll really be confused.
And ask for money. Sign it and say, and that'll be $20.
No. We have a policy at Troma. I don't charge. I've never charged for signatures or photographs. So when we go to the conventions, I'm very unpopular with the other people you've never heard of. They're trying to get $50 for a signature.
Well, that's amazing. Yeah. I just went to Comic-Con Kansas City this past weekend and got a photo op with Elvira, Cassandra Peterson, and it wasn't free.
No.
It was a little pricey.
I don't mind paying. So I would never pay. Tom Cruise, I would not pay for an autograph or a photo. Screw him. He has enough money. But someone who's got more of a cult following, I don't mind paying because I want to support them.
Yeah, they live. I mean, Debbie Rochon has been in about 10 of our movies. You know, she doesn't exactly get a lot of work that pays much, and she's a sincere, independent actor person. She doesn't. She's had opportunities to go mainstream, and she prefers to do what she's doing. So very often, if I can, I'll let her take my photo op money if there is any. If we're at the same country.
Nice. That's nice.
But there usually isn't much for me because I give everything for free at the booths. Only about a dozen people that actually want that professional photograph, but it's something you give to somebody else. But I'm assuming that Stallone and Cruise and those people, I'm assuming they give the money to charity. I don't believe
I would hope. I would hope.
Yeah.
So
speaking of Stallone, you've worked with Sylvester Stallone. You were in 2 of the Rocky movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 1 and number 5.
Yeah.
My film school was number 1.
Okay.
And Saturday Night Fever was the other film on which I feel I learned a lot of kind of the mainstream iconic movies that I just got lucky.
Were you also involved in Dog Day Afternoon?
I was a transsexual, but that had nothing to do with that movie. No. By the way, I'm just looking at I was just looking at this catalog from the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Yeah.
And this is really interesting because I spent a year in Central Africa, and they've got. I put it. If you want to see it, I put it on my Twitter.
Okay.
But this is art from maybe 1,000 years ago.
Oh yeah.
It blurs the genders.
Uh-huh.
And their philosophy, the Dogon race, or whatever you want to call them, the Central Africa, they believe that life is both masculine and feminine, and they switch back and forth. And you know, here we are trying to stop kids who want to change their identity. Right. Right. For example, Joshua identifies as a catfish, and he should have the right to do that.
He's not wrong.
But the point is, you know, all this stuff that keeps coming around, it's just crazy. It's a distraction. Yeah. Right? They don't want
They keep you worried about trans people and gay people, and you don't notice the 6 corporations that own everything and control you.
And the aliens visiting us from all their UFOs.
Well, I don't know what the hell's going on with that. It's breaking my brain.
They just stopped talking about them. You know, they shot them down, and then you don't hear anything more about them.
They should shoot down the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade balloons.
that would be.
Brainwashing children, right? Those stupid balloons about cartoon shows or breakfast food.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of that barely counts as food, honestly.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Foodstuffs. We call it foodstuffs in Poltergeist, remember?
Yeah.
Chicken food. It's funny.
So, Josh, I know you had a couple of questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah. You kind of answered most of them or asked them. I did have one question about Troma Now. On the because I've got it, but I don't. I just use it on my phone or on my computer. Is there any kind of plan for like an Xbox rollout? Like an app that you know of?
There is an app, Troma Now app. It's on Roku. It's on Google Play. It's on about 5 different things.
Okay. Is that just something I have to install then? Because I don't have any of that stuff. But
I bet you have to install it. You're asking a tech question to the creative wizard.
Yeah. Well,
hey, Mr. Kaufman, could you come over and help troubleshoot my cable?
Well, since you bring it up.
I just brought up my lunch. No, I'm pretty technically ignorant. I can fully attach. Well, I'm 77 years old. I know everything about 35 millimeter. I can put together an Ariflex camera and take it apart. Blah 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 blah.
How do you feel about the almost total switch from film to digital in movie making? Do you think it's good or bad?
Very good. It's better. Looks better. I think it's better. It took me a long time. I didn't go digital till Return to Nukem High Volume 1. Yeah. But once I started studying it and once it developed better and better, also the young people you know, we use a lot of young people who are very talented, but they're not schooled in 35 millimeter. So on Romeo and Juliet, the guy who was our editor had been schooled at NYU, mainly digital, but I forced him to do 35 millimeter. I almost had the reverse splicer shoved in my throat 2 or 3 times. I mean, he did a great job, but it, you know, it was. But in those days, the film looked better than the digital.
Oh yeah.
It strobe. Remember that? And there were glitches, but it's beautiful now with the Arri Alexa. Is wonderful, and you know, if you use the best equipment, even incompetent people like us can make a pretty decent looking movie. Check out # Shakespeare's Shitstorm. You'll be amazed. It's beautiful. It's great.
Now, obviously, this is the the very rare time that I talk. I don't have the experience in filmmaking and stuff, but few years I worked in production for a local TV station, and I remember when I started out, we were editing tape deck to tape deck. This was before digital. And then I remember Final Cut Pro on the Macs, nonlinear editing, it blew up. And it just made things way much easier.
Yes.
So much easier.
It's almost fun on our level. It's almost fun because you don't have to spend 8 hours lighting a bathroom. You know, you can, you know, still you have to do it properly and try to make it interesting. You still want to paint with light, but it doesn't take all day, and it's not boiling hot because we like to shoot in the summer.
Oh yeah. I didn't think about that. The lights, you don't have to light as heavily on the digital. So yeah,
you have to. You know, now we can put all the equipment in a box truck, pretty much. You know, one Econo line, a small van with the cameras, and a small truck with all the lighting and grip and sound. Or the sound man usually brings his own, but it's almost a pleasure. You know, it's just. So much more convenient, and I really, by now, it's looking better and better. I'm not a big fan of the CGI because I don't play video games, and when I see movies with the CGI in it, I just can't help but notice it. And I used some CGI in both Return to Nukem High, but I used it in a very Brechtian way, an obvious way, breaking the fourth wall, kind of making fun of it way. But in # Shakespeare Shitstorm, we did use some CGI, and it ain't bad. It ain't bad.
See, I feel like CGI works great for stuff like enhancing backgrounds, you know, that kind of thing. For ways that we used to use matte paintings, sometimes CGI can be used, but most of the time, effects that involve people or animals, it looks weird.
And you know,
do so much better with the practical.
And I was going to say that's what's so great about, you know, the movies in the 70s, 80s, and 90s is you didn't have the technology we had today. So you had to have a great story. You had to have great actors because you didn't have all these CGI effects to, you know, bring people in. You had to tell a great story.
Well, we were in the 70s and 80s, and I don't think we got a lot of positive reinforcement for our great stories or our great actors. So,
well, I think you have great stories and great actors.
We're pushed to the reeds of the underground further and further and further as the industry gets more and more consolidated. But again, I have to thank our fans who've. We're going into our 50th year, and it looks like we will continue to be the herpes of the film industry.
Good. We love herpes here.
We do. Yes, we do.
Going away. I may, as I'm sliding down the razor blade of life, I may evaporate. But the show goes on. Toxie's got a life of his own.
Toxie's forever.
Yeah, I think we're here. I think I think we've made a mark of sorts, and let's see what happens. We've got great new filmmakers coming up. We've discovered all these famous people, and I think you'll find directors like Mercedes the Muse and Brandon Bassam and Heidi Moore, just finishing up her Kill Dolly Kill, which is a kind of a gay musical, a little bit like Vegas in Space, but a horror musical. I mean, these are great movies. They're all one of a kind and original, and you can't pigeonhole it, but through the magic of time, through the fullness of time, they become successful.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I honestly, I hope more people keep discovering Troma, because it brings me so much joy. It really does.
Well, thank you, Nate, and thank you all. I better go because I've got to take some medicine.
Okay. Well, we thank you again so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Do a part two. You guys are great, and you're funny and well prepared. And thank you. I'm not used to that, so thank you very, very much. You've got my email or Garrett's email.
Yes, sir.
And Lloyd K@Troma.com. So I'm happy to send you the hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm.
Yes, please.
There's a full-length documentary that goes with it called the Brown is the Warmest Color. That is famous. It's a wonderful documentary.
Okay, I love that.
All the taking of movies at Troma, all of the feature-length documentaries are terrific. This one is no exception. You can learn more from this one documentary than $80,000 a year at USC Film School, guaranteed.
Awesome. I believe you. I do. Well, thank you so much, sir, and you have a great night, and we will let you know when this is online.
Great, and we can do another chapter when you want, and I'll be
wonderful.
Cogent, probably. So
wonderful.
Thank you so much for your understanding.
All righty.
Best wishes. Good luck, Bloodfest everywhere. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 All right.
So for the folks at home, be sure to follow us on Facebook at Bloodfest Pod, on Twitter at Bloodfest Pod, YouTube Bloodfest Podcast, TikTok Bloodfest the Podcast, and Instagram Bloodfest the Podcast. So next week we'll be talking with Peter Bogdanovich about his least favorite train stations. Oh, come on. That was hilarious. We had an entire conversation about airports, which was awesome. Peter Bogdanovich, the great filmmaker, Peter Bogdanovich.
I'm a little slow tonight.
Yeah. Oh, that was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Pretty good.
I'm so happy. I
went very well.
And I managed to say most of the stuff. Okay, so everybody, thanks for coming along and listening to this. As I said, next week we'll be here with Peter Bogdanovich discussing his least favorite train stations. This has been Nate. Bye.